Every price has a life. Some of these lives are long. For example, the price of a basic watch has hardly changed since its introduction in the US market in 1982. Others are shorter. Many gas stations change their prices multiple times a day, as we can see in this chart. We see how prices fluctuate over the time of day. Just a nice hint, we apparently see, at least for the German market, that prices are the lowest in the afternoon, and not surprisingly, in the middle of the night, they're actually the highest. Temporary price changes are common. Fundamentally, we can distinguish three different motivations for time customizing prices. The first motivation is probably the least obvious one. Time customizing prices even when a consumer's buying behavior is not evolving with time. And at the same time, it is the most common one. The typical price promotions we know from supermarkets would fall into this particular category. Also, the end of season sales, like holiday season, would be considered this type of time customization. Low prices in these scenarios can engender trials to educate customers or to accelerate purchases. While trial would be the objective for less known brands in order to gain market share, purchase acceleration is typically pursued by known brands such as Coca-Cola. Here we see one example where a player in the market first raised prices in order to then actually lower prices yet again. The second motivation applies to situations in which an individual customer's value for a product varies over time. For example, a stay at a ski resort is valued more during the winter season than during summer season. Likewise, a hotel at the beach is typically more valued during the summer than the winter month. It hence makes sense to adjust pricing in recognition of varying perceived value and hence demand. Indeed, ski and beach resorts do customize their prices over time in recognition of the value fluctuations mentioned. Just consider the following chart for a skiing resort in the French Alps. We see how prices fluctuate whether we're talking the peak season or actually booking the very same hotel during off-season. The chosen examples might suggest that prices could only vary over time of year. This is obviously not true. Airlines, for instance, adjust their prices not only according to time of the year, but also the day of the week or the time of the day, similar as we have seen in the gas example before. The last motivation is often called as well yield management. This type of price customizing prices is typically used in the airline, hotel, or rental car industry. American Airlines pioneered this concept in the late 1970s, and in the late 1990s termed yield management absolutely essential to profitable operations, as quantifiable benefits of yield management were about $1.4 billion. Let's consider a very simple illustration. Leisure and business travelers typically differ in three very important ways. First of all, the time of the booking. Leisure customers typically book well in advance, while business customers typically book on short notice. Also, their price sensitivity is very much different. Leisure customers are much more price sensitive than business travelers are. And the final and third difference between these two different types of customers is how flexible they are with respect to their schedule. Again, leisure customers are typically much more flexible with respect to their schedule than business travelers. Leisure travelers, as we said, typically book well in advance, but are not willing to pay as much as business travelers. From an airline point of view, ideally the plane would take off full. An airline might hence be motivated to fill the plane with price-sensitive leisure travelers, leaving essentially no seats for the less price-sensitive business travelers. Yield management systems essentially help airlines to save a few seats on the plane for business travelers willing to pay high prices and at the same time trying to fill the entire plane. Time customization of prices can hence be a very powerful profit enhancer. However, effective and profitable implementation requires a well-researched and thought-through plan.